Dinner, my mother insists, read the text from my fiancé, Colton. No hearts, no warmth, just those cold words. We were set to marry in Savannah the next day. A riverside ceremony, southern food, Spanish moss hanging from the trees. I had spent weeks preparing, but now my hands shook as I reread that message, because I knew his mother, Marcella DeLuca, and this wasn't about dinner. This was a test, or worse, a warning. But she had no idea who she was playing with. Let me back up. My name is Mara Callahan, and 2 years ago I spent time in Florence on a Fulbright. I didn't just fall in love with Renaissance art, I mastered Italian. I spoke it like I was born there. But I never told Marcella that. Why would I? Some weapons are better hidden until the right moment. Marcella hated me from day one. I wasn't Italian, I wasn't Catholic, and worst of all, I wasn't compliant. She called me strong-willed like it was a disease. Every time we met, she made sure I knew I wasn't the woman she wanted for her only son. She'd say things like, "How's your job again? Marketing, was it? Or do you plan to quit when you get pregnant?" As if my life was some side quest in the main story of Colton's future, I tried to play nice. Smile, endure for Colton. But that night something changed. I put on a black sheath dress, simple, sharp, no jewelry, no perfume. I didn't come to impress. I came to end the game. Their family estate in Savannah was a white-columned plantation house passed down for 5 generations. Colton's dad, Vincent, opened the door, all warmth and southern charm. He was the only one in that house who ever looked me in the eye without judgment. Marcella waited in the dining room like a spider in her web. Hair perfectly curled, diamonds winking at her throat, eyes cold as stone. "Mara," she said smoothly, "how lovely. Did you come straight from work? You seem tired." "No," I said. "I rested up for this." Her eyes narrowed. We sat. Food was served. Shrimp and grits, blackened trout, rosemary cornbread, meant to impress, but it tasted like manipulation. The conversation was a chess match. She asked about my career path like she was fishing for weakness. She asked if I knew how to cook a whole roast chicken. Colton sat quiet, pretending not to notice. Then Marcella leaned toward Vincent, her lips curling. "She's pretty," she said in Italian. "Pretty's good. If you can't be useful, you might as well be ornamental." They both chuckled. She didn't know I understood, but I didn't respond. Not yet. After dessert, Colton stepped out to take a call from the wedding planner. Vincent left to grab his bourbon from the study. It was just us. I stood, walked to her seat, and gently placed my hand on hers. Her skin flinched. Then I leaned close, smiled sweetly, and whispered in flawless Italian, "The thing about pretty ornaments is they shatter easily. But I'm not one of them." Her face paled. She pulled her hand back like I'd burned her. I walked out without another word. Direct hit, quick question before the next twist hits. Have you ever had to fake a smile at someone who secretly hated you? Drop a comment below and tell me where it happened. Wedding, holiday, family dinner. I bet your story's just as wild. And don't forget to subscribe for more. The next morning, I made a decision. I forwarded an email to Colton, one I'd been sitting on. It was a job offer from a boutique consulting firm in Rome. 1 year, full relocation. A 6-figure salary, housing included. They wanted me by December 1st. Colton read it silent, then said, "And you weren't going to tell me?" "I was," I said. "After the wedding. But now I need to know, are you marrying me or are you marrying your mother's approval?" He stared at me. Then down at the floor and said nothing. We still got married, but the ceremony was quiet, hollow. Marcella watched me like a predator. I could see it in her eyes. She knew she'd lost a round and she wasn't done. Then 3 days later, everything exploded. Marcella sent Colton a document, a private investigator's report, on me. She'd hired someone to dig into my finances, my family, my college years, and she found one thing. My mother's bankruptcy from 10 years ago. She told Colton I was marrying him for money, that I was a calculated risk, that I hid my past. And here's the twist. Colton believed her. He confronted me, furious. "You should have told me, you knew this would matter." "I didn't think it was relevant," I said, "because I'm not marrying you for your inheritance. I make my own damn money." But it didn't matter. He asked for space. So I gave it to him. I packed a bag, booked a one-way flight to Rome, and left the key on the kitchen table. A week later, I woke up in Trastevere, coffee in hand, job contract signed. I was free. But the revenge. Oh, the revenge was just getting started. Colton didn't let me go quietly. 3 weeks into my new life in Rome, just as I was settling into my rooftop apartment overlooking Piazza Santa Maria, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring. Then another. Then another. The fourth time, I picked up. "Mara, it's me," Colton's voice cracked over the line. "I need to talk to you." I stayed silent. "I made a mistake," he said. "You were right, about everything, about her, about the job. I'm sorry." I wanted to scream at him. But instead I asked, "Why are you really calling?" There was a pause, then came the truth. "She froze my accounts." Marcella, of course she did. She controlled the family trust. Colton had always been financially independent, or so I thought. But now, because he married without her blessing and disrespected her legacy, she was cutting him off. She wasn't just punishing me anymore. She was punishing him too. "I'm trying to transfer clients over to Rome," he said, "but she's threatening to sue me for breach of a non-compete clause. She wants to ruin me." I leaned back in my chair, the Roman sunset casting long shadows across the floor. "So now you need me," I said. "No, no," he stammered. "I need us, please. I'll come there. I'll fix this." But I had changed. The woman who once sat trembling at a Savannah dinner table was gone. I told him, "You let her win." I don't know if I can undo that. He arrived in Rome 5 days later. No announcement, no bouquet, just a man standing outside my office building, looking more lost than I'd ever seen him. He had bags under his eyes. His suit was wrinkled, he'd lost weight, and he had a plan. He wasn't here to beg, he was here to take Marcella down. "She's hiding something," he said, handing me a flash drive. "Something big. And I need your help finding it." The flash drive changed everything. I plugged it into my laptop that night, heart pounding. Inside, spreadsheets, bank transfers, scanned deeds, and one folder labeled simply, "Altamira Holdings." "What's this?" I asked Colton. He sat across from me, elbows on his knees, like a man confessing to a crime. "She's been laundering money," he said. "For years, through shell companies. That's how she kept control over the family trust. It's not just inheritance, it's blood money." I stared at the screen, fake charities, overpriced art sold back and forth, properties owned by LLCs tied to nowhere. Colton leaned in. "I think she's tied to someone bigger. Political donations, foreign transfers. This could be federal." The man who once flinched when I stood up to his mother was now plotting her financial destruction. But that wasn't the twist. The twist was what I found next. A hidden PDF filed away under an innocuous name. It was a signed affidavit, a declaration from Marcella herself, stating that Colton was adopted. I stopped breathing. "She lied to you," I whispered. "You're not even biologically hers." He froze. "What are you talking about?" I turned the laptop to show him. She adopted him at 14 months old. His real mother. A woman named Giulia Bellini, who died in a fire in upstate New York. Marcella had been her cousin. It wasn't inheritance Marcella was protecting. It was legacy. Colton was never meant to have anything. And Marcella was determined to make sure he never found out, his hands clenched into fists. "She controlled me," he said. "Every damn decision, and I wasn't even hers to control." We stared at each other across the table. Revenge wasn't a game anymore. It was a war, and we were going to win. Together. The next morning, we made a plan, not just to expose Marcella's financial crimes, but to shatter the illusion she'd built for decades. We started with the one person who could crack her from the inside. Vincent, Colton's adoptive father. He had always been kind, quiet, distant, a man with heavy eyes who lived like a shadow in Marcella's world. Colton emailed him a copy of the adoption affidavit. No subject line, no message, just the truth. Less than 2 hours later, Vincent called us. "I didn't know," he said, voice shaking. "I thought you were hers. She told me she rescued you after your mother died. She said you were family." "Am I not?" Colton asked. "You are," Vincent said, "but she never told me it was adoption. She made me believe. Everything else." And then he whispered, "Come home. Both of you, I'll help you end this." 3 days later, we flew back to Savannah under fake names, checked into a small hotel off River Street, and waited for nightfall. Vincent snuck us into the house through the garden gate. The place looked the same chandelier, same polished wood floors, but everything felt darker now, rotten under the gloss. In the study, Vincent handed Colton an envelope. "Her safe deposit box," he said. I found the key. I haven't looked. I didn't want to. But I think whatever you're looking for, it's in there. The next morning, we visited the bank. The clerk opened the box and stepped away. Inside, we found a birth certificate, Colton Bellini, born to Giulia Bellini, 3 offshore bank account statements totaling over $4.7 million, a marriage certificate, dated 3 years before Marcella ever met Vincent. What the hell? Colton muttered, flipping it over. Marcella had been married to a Sicilian man named Dario Scarpacci with known ties to organized crime. And now we understood. Marcella hadn't married for love. She married for power, protection, a cover, Colton's adoption, a way to appear legitimate, her trust fund, dirty money whitewashed over generations, and marrying Vincent, a disguise. Colton stood silent, staring at the marriage license. "Do you still want revenge?" I asked. He nodded. But his voice was calm. "We're not just going to ruin her, we're going to erase her legacy. We move like thieves in daylight, only our aim is justice, not theft. Vincent uses old trust protocols to prod open doors. Colton uses the clients Marcella still controls as bait. I use the blackmail of truth, the flash drive, the birth certificate, the marriage license tied to Dario Scarpacci to rip the curtain wide. We don't whisper. We don't negotiate. We set the stage. First, we hand a copy to the one person who can make it stick, a federal prosecutor Colton's old firm quietly trusts. We sit in a sterile conference room while a woman with kind eyes and a pencil that never stops moving listens. I watch her face tighten as she scrolls through the spreadsheets. Offshore transfers, fake charities, art deals that route money through 3 countries. She asks one question. "Do you have witnesses?" Vincent does. He's kept ledgers, names, dates, little things Marcella thought he never noticed. He testifies that Marcella arranged payments, that she signed checks in his name, that she silenced questions with threats. Colton gives the affidavit that proves he is not biologically her son. I hand over every scrap I've found from the safe deposit box. We sign statements. We file complaints. We do it clean. Then comes the public part. Marcella runs a charity gala twice a year. White gloves, long speeches, a fundraiser that everyone in Savannah attends because it smells of old money and better manners. Marcella never misses her own stage. She loves it. The crystal, the applause, the little bows from people who want favors. We buy 2 tickets. Colton and I arrive separately. Vincent is a guest of honor. His name on the brochure still smells of legacy. I wear simple black so my face reads like a headline. We sit at a table in the center of the ballroom, while servers move like clockwork and chandeliers spill light like liquid. Marcella stands to make the customary speech about home and charity and how grateful she is for the community that trusts her. Her voice is honey. The crowd laps it up. Halfway through, the lights dim, not for drama, but because I press a button under the table that sends the projector to a video loop we've prepared. On the screen, scanned bank statements with Marcella's signature, the marriage license to Dario Scarpacci, invoices showing art sold to companies she controlled, emails where she brags about arrangements to a shadowy address. The room goes quiet enough to hear a fork hit a plate. Marcella's smile fractures. She tries to laugh it off. "Technical difficulties," she purrs, but Colton stands. He walks to the microphone like he's stepping into sunlight. He reads, slowly, the page that matters, the affidavit that proves his adoption, the line that says Giulia Bellini is his mother. He tells the room he is not the heir she promised them, and that the money funneled through the charity is tainted. That's when lights at the rear snap on, and men in suits fill the doorway. The prosecutor we met waits at the edge of the crowd with 2 agents. They hand Marcella a subpoena and later an arrest warrant. The applause she once got dies inside her throat. People who kissed her hand an hour before now stare with the same blankness she once gave me. She tries to speak, but her words are small. Her diamonds look like pitiful promises. Vincent's face is unreadable, relief and sorrow braided together. Colton's hand finds mine and squeezes. I feel the tremor of victory and something else, too, pity, like a thin rain we didn't ask for. In the weeks that follow, the house she kept like a cathedral of self is emptied. The trust collapses as banks freeze accounts and the federal investigation widens. Several board members of the charity resign under pressure. Newspapers smell scandal. Neighbors gossip until the story blooms into rumor and then into fact. Marcella becomes a lesson rather than a socialite. What you build on lies will not hold. We did not flatten her with petty cruelty. We brought proof and let the law do the rest. That's the smart revenge, sharp, lawful, and irreversible. There is a twist I didn't expect. When agents catalog the safe, they find a small packet tucked beneath a false bottom, a brittle photograph of a woman with a shy smile, and a note in a looping, older hand, Giulia's handwriting. It isn't an accusation. It's a plea. It reads, plainly, "Forgive me for hiding you. I couldn't protect us both." Colton stares at that photo until the image burns white behind his eyes. We learn then that Marcella's cruelty had roots not only in greed but in fear. Dario's shadow, his promises, his threats, haunted her early life. She had been a frightened woman who married to survive, then learned to survive by making herself invulnerable. That does not absolve her. It softens the edges. It makes the revenge human instead of monstrous. The agents care about the money, I care about the story. Legal battles take months. Marcella fights, lashes out, calls in favors, tries to smear us. Her supporters thin. Her defenders are the same men who profit from closed doors and secret deals, men who now whisper and step away. The charity folds. The art collections are auctioned to pay restitution. She loses the house. The papers print mugshots. The city refuses to host her name in gala programs again. Colton, finally free from her chokehold, does something unexpected. He relinquishes his claim to the trust on paper. Not because he needs to, because he wants to remove the bait that still draws vultures. He donates a large portion of what remains to a rehabilitation center in Giulia's name. He insists the money be used for single mothers, for people trapped by the same fear Marcella once knew. He names the small program Giulia's Light. I stand beside him when he signs the check, and I see the way his shoulders settle, like a house exhaling after a long storm. My career in Rome blossoms. The consulting role expands into a leadership position. I mentor a team that wrenches projects from chaos into clarity. Yet I am not the same Mara who flew across oceans to escape a dinner table. That woman was raw and hungry. This Mara is measured. I keep one small trophy from all this, a locket found in the safe, engraved with Giulia's initials. I wear it sometimes when I need to remember why I fought, not for money, not for petty triumph, but for truth. There is price. Revenge burns as it lands. Vincent loses many friends. His name is tainted by association even though he helped expose the truth. Colton struggles with shame for years, guilt that he let his mother shape his life, grief that something he loved was a lie. I lose a sense of innocence. I carry tiny moral scars, questions about how far was too far, whether planting a public humiliation felt righteous or cruel. Those questions keep me honest. The final irony is small and perfect. Months after the arrest, a local columnist writes a long piece about the scandal and ends with a brittle line. Savannah always knew its ghosts. My name is in the piece, along with Colton's and Vincent's, and Marcella's, who sits in prison visiting hours like a queen stripped of court. But at the bottom of the column, someone has commented, a woman who says she was once helped by Marcella when she was young and broke. She writes that Marcella had given her a job and a roof, and that she still remembers the kindness even among the crimes. The comment gets little traction, swallowed by outrage. But I read it twice and then again at night, and it lodges in me like a small, awkward truth. People are never only monsters or saints. In the end, what I wanted most wasn't to watch Marcella burn. I wanted to choose my life on my own terms. I wanted Colton to be free of a mother who thought ownership could be disguised as love. I wanted to wake up without the slow ache of being judged like a trespasser. We got that, but we paid for it. On a wet spring morning, at a modest civil ceremony in a municipal office in Rome, Colton and I stand again and say the vows we wrote ourselves. No big house, no spectacle, just two people who survived a storm and decided to try. Vincent watches over a pixelated stream from his home in Savannah. He smiles like a man learning to be brave. We are older than we were, wiser and a little more careful with the power we hold. Sometimes at night, I take out the Mara who once poured herself into every fight and lay her beside the woman I am now. She forgives me for the sharp edges I used. I forgive her for the patience she never had. We keep moving. Revenge, I learn, is a cold thing when you put it on a table. Justice is warmer when you let the law and truth do the work. Mercy is the warmest when you can offer it to yourself. There is one last small bit of justice that tastes like irony. On a rainy afternoon, a former socialite who once sneered at me receives an invitation to speak at a governance panel addressing nonprofit oversight. Because after Marcella fell, the city tightened rules and asked experts to teach how to stop money from being hidden behind charity. She accepts. She writes an op-ed about accountability. She calls it learning from pain. I read it and laugh, a clean, short laugh that tastes like release. I keep the locket close. I write to Giulia's old address, now a historical marker, and leave a pressed flower on the stoop. It is small, silly, private. It is mine. We did something that night at the gala that I will not regret. We took truth out from under a set of polished plates and set it on display. We allowed the law to do what it was meant to do. People called it revenge, and it was. But mostly it was a reclamation. We reclaimed our names, our choices, our lives. If anyone asks whether the cost was worth it, I tell them this. I can now sit at a dinner table and meet someone's eyes without shrinking. I can say where I come from, what I do, and what I will not tolerate. That, in its quiet way, is the final, sweetest revenge, owning your life back and finding the courage to live it.